What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Operators Podcast, episode 29. I'm actually 29 years old, so this is a special episode, so I get to moderate. We're here with Jason. We're here with Mike. We're here with Sharoon from Fulfil, our premier top-tier sponsor. We have a one Canadian rule, so Matt's taking this week off. He might be back next week, or we might get Toby from Shopify. And if Toby becomes regular, Matt, sorry, you're kicked off the podcast. We've replaced you with the biggest and best Canadian there is. But what's up, everybody? How you guys feeling?
It's good to be here. Look at Sharoon. What's up, buddy? Welcome to the pod.
Hey. Thank you. Happy to be the token Canadian. And let's see if I can defend while Matt is out.
But what's up, Mike? We missed you last week. What were you doing?
Missed you guys. I've been doing, I've got a lot of travel recently. Last week, it was actually strategic planning time for Simple Modern. And so fired up. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that today, but just looking ahead, celebrating a good year and looking ahead to hopefully a better next year.
Dude, strategic planning. That's going to be the last thing we talk about. So please make it to the end of the episode. The first thing we're going to talk about is Shopify earnings. They came out this morning. I listened to the call. Very solid growth from a GMV perspective, added a ton of great new stores. But let's talk with Jason. Jason, anything you think about Shopify? Are you feeling bullish on Shopify's future?
Actually, you posted about their GMV growth offline being faster than online, right?
No, yeah. That is a correct data point that their offline GMV boosted by their their POS system is growing 26%. The whole business is growing like 22 or 24. And I just posted on Twitter that like it pisses me off that these are the one people who know exactly how good e-com is doing, and they only talk about overall business. You know that their sales team is adding a ton of great stores. So they have 10 billion in GMV growth year over year. How much of that 10 billion do you guys think is coming from new stores versus same store sales growth? I'll start with Mike. Mike, what are you thinking?
I think it's a lot. I think as a general rule of thumb, if there's a piece of data that somebody can share and they choose not to, there's a reason. And so if they usually same store sales or existing user revenue growth is one of the most bullish indicators for a company. If the company is not disclosing that when they could, probably the reason is because it's not that impressive looking. So I think that was a great call out that you made, Sean. They know, and probably what it says is that it's been a very anemic year for their existing partners, and that lines up with what we all hear. Like I was in Austin at an e-commerce thing recently, and I'm hearing that from everybody, like low single digits or even negative for a lot of people. So that's probably what Shopify is experiencing on the whole. I do think the bigger story, and this disconnects from valuation, is just Shopify won. They won the space. Like at this point, the big brands are coming over. There was this movement around headless that looked like, okay, maybe that, there were just different things that have happened in the last few years that look like they might challenge the dominance of Shopify. And none of that stuff is coming to pass. Like Shopify is going to consolidate the industry. And so from that point of view, I think, obviously valuation matters where you buy a company, but you can feel pretty confident owning Shopify because they are going to be one of the tech juggernauts. And it's becoming increasingly difficult to imagine a world where they don't just progressively take over almost everyone that has a strong digital distribution strategy or even a hybrid omni-channel with the way that they're making inroads into brick and mortar and physical distribution.
Hey, Mike, I want to jump in here because it seems to me like there's a few things going on here. It mainly goes to big brands moving to Shopify.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they disclosed that, Sean, but it sounds like there are just a number of big brands that are finally getting it. They're probably, like you said, Shopify is the leader. They're taking over. I was in Austin at a dinner a couple weeks ago, and there was a woman there who works for one of the other names that, grew up in it's like Salesforce Cloud, it's BigCommerce, and I feel like all these guys are over time, they're realizing that the experience on Shopify, it's just so much easier to grow and iterate and do great things with your site that you just can't do when you're locked in to some of these older platforms.
You're totally right, Jason. I mean, they named probably 20 brands on the Shopify earnings call that have switched over to Shopify in Q3. The big one that I think is worth talking about is pieces of the LVMH portfolio. They've added at least one LVMH brand. So they are attracting a lot of people. And then, Mike, you talked about them being dominant and them winning. I think what Shopify does better than anybody else is the partnerships. Every time they've tried to outright buy something, it's been a disaster, but they're great at partnering and taking equity stake, right? That's what they did with Klaviyo. And this segues into why we have Sharoon here. They talked a lot about their deal with Flexport. So let's talk to the resident ops guy. What do you think Shopify's plan for ops is and fulfillment in the future?
It's never been one of Shopify's type of businesses, right? Like Shopify, if you talk to any of their team members, if you see any of their offices, if you see the company culture, it's very clear it's a tech company. If you really, really want to win in something like logistics and operations, the culture needs to be very different. You have to have the culture of Amazon to be really winning in there. So I think they did a phenomenal job offloading their entire logistics business to someone else to run and still hold a stake in it. I think that's probably the right strategy to do, and continue to focus on the tech side of the business, which is what Shopify is pretty awesome at.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think, they bought Deliver just because there was so much pressure for them to be an Amazon competitor. And that sucked for like 4 years. It just was a total cost center. Like it didn't do anything for that business. So I think getting out of it makes a ton of sense. And it just returns to form what Shopify does well. They'll own 10% of Flexport. If Flexport IPOs, they'll sell shares and make money. I mean, shout out Harley and Topi for making those deals because they've always looked a very win-win.
The advantage of Shopify has always been that, hey, if you're really small, you just want to spin something up, right? You could spin up an e-commerce site for like $15 and in 15 minutes. You've talked about this before, Sean. But the idea was that, well, the amount of customization that you can do and that you can do some bespoke things and you can probably have a better experience if you have the money of the really big boys. To me, Shopify being at the point that even the big boys that have the resources that they could spend $20 million on a custom website are saying it's not worth it. Like Shopify is still a better solution for us. That's a tipping point of sorts, that it doesn't matter how big you are, how many resources you have, it just makes more sense to be on Shopify.
Totally. Sean, you mentioned that there were a bunch of brands that were mentioned on the earnings call. I saw a tweet earlier from Holly today. They mentioned one of our customers, Medjuri, that's replatforming into Shopify. Now, they have the exact architecture that Mike was talking about, years of building something custom, and now they're just replatforming into Shopify. So they're clearly becoming the leader here.
Yeah, dude. I mean, if they can do like cosmetic brands, if they can do grocery brands, if they can do Glossier, it's like, why can't they do Walmart? I think they'll eventually do everybody. So, it's hard to bet against Shopify. I still think they're probably overvalued. I would love to see some data around what is happening year over year for stores. But Sharoon, you have that data too, man. So my ask for you is, same store year over year package volumes. When do we get the Fulfil white paper going into Q4 or in 2023 recap? When's that coming?
Noting that down as one of my action items, Sean.
At least for 2023, a year over year same store sales comparison. We'll get some good GMV data on the e-commerce market, and then you can see if you're beating it or not. I'm excited to look at that. We'll talk about Dollar Shave Club quickly. I don't know if anyone has any strong thoughts. If you haven't heard, Unilever is getting rid of Dollar Shave Club, selling them to a private equity group. They're going to keep 35%. Jason, what are your thoughts on this?
It's a hard one to understand, the fact that they held on to some of it. Like you usually don't see large corporates wanting to hold a minority stake in something. So it's probably just like part of the deal that they had to do it. Because even holding 35%, they're going to have to actually take part of the numbers into their P&L. If it's under 20, then it's just a pure balance sheet. But if it's 35%, there'll be like a minority interest, and they'll take their share of Dollar Shave Club's earnings or losses in their financials, in their EPS. So maybe it's just so small, like they don't care. Like they're so big that it's just like a rounding error for them. So it sounds to me like this was the only way to get this off their books. And I'm guessing, I don't know, did they have any performance numbers, Sean? I'm just like guessing that it's just really, really suffering.
Well, you hit on a very interesting point, Jason, and that, just to clarify with everybody, typically strategics buy and sell 100% of everything because it's not worth the accounting loopholes and logistics to own shares of something, right? It's a huge pain in the ass. You have to wait for other people's reporting. It can delay your quarterly numbers. Like, they're just not in that game. They either buy 100% of something or they sell 100% of something. So that is unique that they're keeping 35%. My first thought when I heard that was the private equity group made them hold so that they wouldn't compete. Like, Unilever has all the purchasing power. They have all the shelf space on earth. They could just be like, oh yeah, here, buy this thing from us with inflated wholesale numbers. And then we make Target remove you completely. So at least there's some skin in the game there. But financial numbers were not disclosed. I bet I could find some sales data for Dollar Shave Club, but I haven't looked. Mike, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think the main thing is that this is like a black eye on the D2C industry. The valuation and obviously in retrospect, the absurdity of it, this became one of those deals that was a cautionary tale for people, buying D2C companies. And so in some ways, it kind of getting flushed and, us getting past it is probably, the nature is healing kind of moment for D2C acquisitions. But it's just, like, it brings up a point that I make a lot, which is, when you're selling something, you always want to sell it for a great valuation. But if you're not thinking about how to make sure that the party buying it's getting a good deal, then you could very well end up regretting it. And so this is a case where, like, man, I guess congrats to the Dollar Shave Club team that was able to sell this to Unilever, but it's actually created a little bit of toxicity around the space for other entrepreneurs. And so, to me, the fact that this is becoming old news and this is probably the last chapter that we're going to hear on it is probably a good thing.
Sharoon, you have some thoughts on this. I would love to hear, as an operator's perspective, what do you think about Dollar Shave Club?
Yeah, so I was doing some research on it, and there are two things that stood out. One, some pretty horrible reviews about shipping and items not getting on time and so on. And if you go to their website, they have a clear poster there that stayed there for 8 months, and it says our fulfillment center is currently experiencing processing delays. So allow a few extra days to ship. And it already takes 24 to 48 hours to process an order for them. And then it takes more days to ship something like shaving kits out. So that's just a horrible experience for consumers. There's no way you can survive in a business like this with that sort of operations and that sort of fulfillment. And this is a space where they're probably acquiring customers at a very high cost, and they need this customer to come back and buy a few times before they become profitable. So I think there are some fundamental operational issues, and that's where the acquirer should now start focusing and try and right the ship a bit before they can do anything.
Mike, do you have any thoughts here?
It's just it's a great point, and it's the way when these things go bad, there's this negative feedback loop. It's like the financial results aren't there, it's unprofitable. How do we cut costs? The service gets worse. You have more churn. You lose more customers. Oh my gosh, the P&L is a wash. It's all red. Hey, cut more costs, and that's how you get a situation like that, where the thing becomes an almost unsalvageable doom loop because of the fact that the financial performance is off, and that leads to this behavior that instead of investing in the business and trying to kind of, get it back on track, it's like we've got to cut costs. And it feels like, at least from the outside, when you've got a note like that up on your website for 8 months, that's what's going on.
And I just want to add that Bonobos had the exact same problems before Walmart got rid of them. I think there is a big disconnect between large conglomerates and basic D2C principles. Walmart can't do it. Unilever can't do it. It just makes sense for them to offload them. I don't know why they can't. Shipping shit isn't that hard, right? Jason's doing it all Black Friday, but apparently Dollar Shave Club can't figure it out.
It's actually really hard. M&A is really hard. People don't get that. And I don't want to like burst anyone's bubble here, but as an M&A banker for 12 years, as an M&A lawyer for 4 years, having sold a few businesses that I helped run, like most M&A deals they don't work out. And a lot of times it's similar to this case, which is like they bought in some kind of bubble. There was just like people were just being irrational, how they value things, or stuff just changes. It's just like trying to predict what's happening with the stock market. It's like, just please stop, because there are so many variables in the equation. It's just like never going to happen. And even if you make the best decision possible, something will come up and just whack you in the face about it, right? And that's why you just buy the market. And these M&A deals, the ones that work are really thought out with a serious amount of analytical rigor and diligence. And I think that these big companies, like I remember in my tech days, like IBM was never growing. Like the only way they grew was by acquisition. And a big company like Unilever, there's no growth there. They're chasing growth. So they thought they were chasing a growing asset. And you know what? They were wrong.
Dude, I mean, you're totally correct that I've never seen M&A deals that are done on hype or hope or future growth work out. Like, who's really good at M&A? Steve Madden, because you know what he pays? 1, 2, 3x EBITDA. That's what that
Warren
guy
Buffett.
pays. Yeah. And because even if it goes fucking horribly, it's like he still has a revenue producing asset. So that's a very good point, Jason. Jason, do you want to take it away with a panzerism? If we have you on mic, we have you talking. Let's have you weigh in.
The word that comes to mind is just thought leadership. And that's really what you want. It's not just about software. It's about the people designing and building that software and advising you on how to use that software to get the most out of your business. And the SendLane team is obviously thought leaders in the messaging space. Jimmy regularly is posting on Twitter and giving insights of how you can be more effective at communicating with your customers on own messaging. And listen, we all know CPMs are only going up. If there's a core competency you have to develop, you have to get great at messaging, and SendLane is an excellent option. We loved being there for a live operators pod. Hope everybody enjoyed listening to it. And we're thankful to have SendLane as one of our sponsors.
I've tried to invest in SendLane. Like, I've tried to speak about putting your money where your mouth is. Jimmy will not let me on the cap table. I don't know why, but it's a product I believe in so much in this market that I am trying to put my own money into it. So, Jimmy, this is a call for help. Let me invest in your software, dude. It's really good.
Well, it's a little early in the ep for a panzerism, but I will gladly do one. And this one is one that's come to me recently, just based on communication with a lot of people, both outside and inside HexClad. Be authentic, because people know when you're not. Like, I get these texts from people, oh, I'm so glad that blah, 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 blah. Thank you for blah, blah, blah. It's like, give it a rest. Like, I can see right through this. Like, stop trying to fucking butter me up. Seriously, like, I don't need the stroking, but it's just, I think it's like pervasive with Twitter and millennials and Gen Z. It all just seems so fucking fake. And it's like, be authentic. Like, this is one of the reasons why, like, you know, Sean has a huge fan base, and he also has some haters. It's because he's super authentic. And this is one of the reasons why I like the pod, because I think, Mike, I think you're very authentic.
Okay, so I'm going to say something. I'm going to call myself out on something because and this applies to a lot of people. You know, one way that I wish I was better at this, Jason, because I'm a person who wants to be authentic. But you know what I wish I said more of? I don't know. I wish I was just willing to say, "I don't know," more often. And I think there's such pressure sometimes to always feel like we've got a take or we've got an answer for everything. And you know what? Sometimes I just freaking don't. And that actually I really respect people, like smart people, that when I ask them a question like, "Hey, what do you think about this big issue or this controversial thing?" and they just say, "You know what? I don't know. I haven't studied it enough. I still want to learn more." Like, to me, that's way more respectable than them just having some take. And sometimes I feel that in myself, that I feel like I've got to have an answer for everything, or I've got to have a point of view on everything, even if I haven't really given it the thought or whatever. So even with myself, I can see the way that Twitter and the podcast and everything else can pull out inauthenticity. So it's a great reminder to me. I think it's a great panzerism.
Yeah, and if we're just complaining, I got some shit to complain about. Dude, some fucking people, like, I gave some guy my calendar invite, like, sorry for the fireworks, everybody. I gave some guy my calendar, like my calendar link, like 6 months ago, and out of nowhere, he just booked a call with me for this Friday. Didn't email me and ask if he could, just hopped on there and booked a call. So fuck that guy. I think he's listening to this podcast. Dude, don't fucking do that. And another thing is, some brand I hopped on a call with just to help them like 5 months ago, right? And now they have some other issue, and they've emailed me 3 times like I'm supposed to fucking help them with their issue. I'm the CEO of a goddamn 9-figure brand. Like, I got my own issues I get paid to solve.
Here's another one. Listen, there are a lot of people that we all get a lot of inbound requests for people who are asking for help in some way, right? What really drives us crazy, and this is just advice to anybody listening, where like you want to ask somebody for a favor. If you want a favor, be direct. Make it clear what you're asking for. What I don't like is when somebody's like, "Hey, I just wanted to hop on a call and get your experience using X and Y, and what pain points you might be experiencing," when it's really like they want to try to sell me something. It's like, if you want product feedback, I'll give you product feedback. If you're like, "Hey, I am selling something that can help recoup costs in this area," then be direct. I would like to be able to get on the call with you and see if you will buy my product. But when you feel bait and switch, I mean, the word, I think the term bait and switch is what we're talking about here, Jason. That the moment that you feel like, oh my gosh, somebody presented this under one kind of auspice and it's something different, then immediately I'm like, eject, eject.
Yeah.
Sharoon would
And
never
look,
do that, though, right?
yeah, Sharoon's here to help people.
What do you think about all this?
So this reminds me of the exact opposite advice that investors and advisors give out to startups. They tell you, if you want to raise capital, ask an investor for advice. If you want advice, don't reach out. So you never ask for money. Instead, you reach out asking for advice and hope somehow you twist that conversation and bait and switch into eventually asking for capital. Jason, you have been in this space. Have you seen that? Is that advice that you would agree with? Not agree with?
Well, I first of all, I don't believe anything that private equity and venture investors say, because they all love you until they don't. It's 100%. Like, I kind of do it for fun now when private equity people like reach out to us to talk about HexClad. And I'm not talking about the emails that I get that someone's got 200K in capital that they need to deploy, because I get plenty of those. But like, really good brand name PE firms, like they'll talk to you, they love you, and they love you, and they love you, and they love you, and then they call you up and they say, we looked at the market, and we're really not excited about it. And it's kind of funny now that just like private equity, there are a lot of really smart people in private equity. And when I was a lawyer, I remember one of my first deals, First time I ever stayed at a Four Seasons hotel was in 1997. I was at Four Seasons in Las Colinas, outside of Dallas, and we're at the company's office. They're doing due diligence, and there's this young guy, spreadsheet jockey, just like building the model. I was fascinated by this because I hadn't gone to business school yet, and I thought these guys were so smart, and I thought that for like 10 plus years, and then I realized that they're no smarter than anywhere else. They're just kind of good at numbers, and but the herd mentality is crazy. So I this is like a George Costanza moment if you watch Seinfeld, where you do the opposite of what they tell you to do.
We're good to go. Let's roll into so we asked Sharoon to come on this episode because I had a question. Everybody was talking about headless and how everyone should go to headless. And it was the biggest thing ever for 4 years, and how Shopify should just be your back end. You should have all this custom stuff on the front end. And everyone you talked to who's ever done headless said it's a huge pain in the ass and it's not worth it. So my question to him was, is there similar stuff in the ops or ERP world that it's like a big just trap people fall into that like they shouldn't do it? And what's the answer, man? What should we avoid doing?
Ever heard the buzzword best of breed?
I've heard that buzzword, yes.
That's the thing. So that's something that I've seen more and more brands fall into, where they start going and buying a whole bunch of different pieces of software. ERP, let's stack it up with another thing. Let's stack it up with another piece of software. And then eventually none of them fully integrate with each other, talk to each other, and work. So end of the day, you have to just throw humans back in as duct tape, filling all these gaps between different pieces of software, and it just never works. But if you look at it, there's like tons and tons of advice out there that will tell you do best of breed, find the best software for each piece of your business and start deploying them. So I would say that's the near equivalent for headless in the ops world today.
That's interesting. What do you think the most overpriced piece of ops software is? Because I have an answer, but I'd love to hear yours.
Ooh, I think I'll go with your answer first.
Okay. Mine is Narvar. Have you guys ever used Narvar? Fuck them, dude. They're never going to be a sponsor of this podcast. That's my answer. That's the worst piece of software in the ops world. What's yours?
Some really, really expensive WMS systems like High Jump. Heard of it?
No, I've never heard of this.
Yeah, it's the most overpriced WMS system ever. I've seen so many companies deploy it and go into a shit shape where they can't ship products out the door. So if the sole purpose of a WMS is to help you pick, pack, and ship, and the one thing that you can't do with it is ship products out on time, yeah, it's just a waste of money. You're throwing money down the drain.
Sharoon, I have a question, and feel free to defer. But if you don't, Sean's always putting people on the spot. I never do, but I'm just going to do it this one time. What is like the right tech stack for? There are a lot of sort of $5 to $50 million brands that like our pod, and we want to help them, right? So what is the right tech stack for like something in the middle, like a $25 million brand?
I'm assuming this is a question about OpStack. That's the only thing that I know much to talk about. So it really, really depends. So if your operations is super simple, something like, say, you're selling on Shopify and you have a 3PL, that should be your tech stack. If you still have to do your financials, you're probably taking end of month reports from Shopify and uploading it into some accounting package. Use something like Xero or QuickBooks. Keep it as simple as you can if your business allows that. So if you've scaled to 25 million and if you have very simple operations, I would say just keep it exactly as such and keep your tech stack super, super simple.
And what about someone that's maybe going to 50 million with different channels, multiple distribution centers? They're doing Shopify, they're doing Amazon, maybe they're dabbling in a little bit of retail. Then what?
Yeah, that's the start of complexity, right? The moment you add a sales channel, you now have complexity because you're reporting the same inventory into two places. You have two distribution centers. You're now shipping items from two places. You're receiving inventory to two places, moving inventory between them adds complexity. So every single one of these things, you add more SKUs, that adds complexity. So each of these things that add complexity to your business, that's kind of where ERP systems become relevant. That's where it allows you to kind of get all of these different areas under control in one single place. So more than the revenue piece, you can have this sort of complexity at 4 million too, because if you sell it like 5 different channels and have two warehouses, you're there even at a very, very low revenue number, right? So I would just use that as a benchmark more than the revenue to figure out what your tech stack should be. And at that size, an ERP totally makes sense for you. At that complexity, an ERP system uh, will benefit you.
Sharoon, you know what? We talked on the last pod a bit about HexClad's experience with Fulfil, and I'm gonna bring it up again because it's incredible. This right now, we're leading up to the biggest time of the year, and I've never been so calm about the operational side of the shitstorm that's about to come down. Right? It's coming, and we're gonna fulfill maybe only 20% of the orders out of our warehouse this year, whereas last BFCM it was 80%. And I do not think there's any way in hell we could have done this if we didn't onboard Fulfil. So make sure your team is ready. Don't fuck it up. But I'm feeling really good about where we are thanks to that. Maybe you should talk a little bit about that, what you've seen with our deal.
Yeah, I think expanding from operating one warehouse plus Amazon FBA to now onboarding multiple 3PLs in multiple countries and scaling operations across the board, shipping containers to Japan now and UK and everywhere, keeping inventory in Canada where we can now buy HexClad pants. So scaling to that sort of operations, it's always what we absolutely love working with merchants on. And in this case, Jason, with you, that was a amazing thing to work with you on.
I didn't even realize how much we've scaled. That when I'm thinking about the U.S. operation, but when you think about that, we launched Australia, Japan, and Canada D2C in like the last 2 months. We already had UK and EU, and so when we first onboarded, you did that. It's a lot.
I have a question. Is the hardest thing to integrate retail stores? Like if Jason opened 5 retail stores, like is that like the most challenging thing to integrate into an ops stack, or is it just like treated like another like warehouse node?
Honestly, it's just another warehouse, and a platform like Shopify, you're using Shopify point of sale in each of these stores. That's capturing sales right there, which leaves just two more things to deal with, right? You just need to receive inventory in stores. You probably have a minimum amount of inventory there. For a brand like HexClad, you will always run into storage issues. So you'll probably have some form of accepting orders in store and collecting payment, but shipping from the DC back in LA instead of carrying all of the inventory in the store. So that adds a little bit of complexity there. But outside of that, stores are not a big challenge at all, especially if you're using something like Shopify point of sale in the store.
Mike, you have any last minute questions? I asked the worst op software. Jason asked about tech stack. Anything you want to ask, man?
So, Sharoon, we obviously have people that are listening to this that are at a variety of different steps in their business. What advice would you give? What encouragement would you give to invest in an ERP solution sooner rather than later? Why is it advantageous? Because we put this off way too long. I mean, we were almost at 9 figures before we really got serious about an ERP, and it made the transition process much more painful as a result. So, what are the advantages of taking this seriously early?
I would say there's always a thing like too early for ERP systems. So, Mike, you mentioned you were a little bit late. That is usually my preference. you better be a little bit late into implementing an ERP system than be too early. So when you're too early, what ends up happening is the ERP system is the complexity in your business. Instead of it
Mm.
solving problems for you, now the ERP becomes the problem for you. So it's always good to wait a little bit and start see some of these challenges. And usually the biggest symptom that you would be experiencing is total lack of inventory control, which is a compounding problem because it starts affecting your sales channel, customer experience, everything at that point. So unless you start seeing those problems, I'd say an ERP is a solution waiting for a problem. Don't try and do it too early. It's just going to backfire on you. The number of failed implementations that we see of other systems when we move customers out, almost always it's because they tried implementing too early and uh, ran into challenges because of that. So
Yeah.
if you
So your
do, if
advice
you're
is
unsure,
wait until you've got some inventory, some kind of persistent inventory issues where you really can't track your inventory. The complexity is too big, and that's when you know it's time to start looking at an implementation.
exactly. So, Mike, if I think about Simple Modern, for example, you
Yeah.
have personalized products, right? Customized
Right.
products that ship out. That's
Right.
a whole different level of complexity that it adds to your business. So, when you see
Absolutely.
challenges like that, that's usually when you start thinking about, hey, this is now affecting my customer experience. I need to start worrying about this. I mean, without that, I wouldn't.
Yeah. It's good advice. And it's like I've been through a failed ERP implementation. I mean, that's the kind of the dirty secret. So, do you guys have many failed implementations? And if not, how do you avoid failed implementations?
So we say a lot of no's, and we get a lot of pushback for that. I think a good chunk of calls that I have to jump on and apologize are prospects who really just want an ERP system, and our team said, no, you're not a great fit for us. Uh,
Hmm.
so we do have to say a lot of no's to make sure that we can avoid these failures. We have also had implementation failures, and in almost always, it's because the company was a little too early. The simple way to think about it is when you move inventory from one place to the other, Fulfil will ask both people to confirm that, yes, I shipped it, and the other team to say, I received it. If the company is too early, they would complain that, why do I have to click two buttons? I just want this done in one go. The company is large enough and the complexity is there. People would say, I need that control that the other person shouldn't be able to change my inventory numbers. The other warehouse should not be messing around with my numbers. So that's the point at which it makes sense and it adds value. If not, it's just screwing up your day.
Nice, man. Well, I think we just had a good 20 minutes of grilling Sharoon about what his product does and why we like him as a sponsor. I'm a proud Fulfil user. Mike and Jason, I want to highlight something you guys both said. Jason's like, I have clarity and peace of mind going into Q4. And in 2019, me and the team in the parking lot in Santa Monica individually picked and packed Nordstrom's wholesale orders. And last week we shipped 300 different orders to 300 different Best Buy stores, and I didn't even have to think about it. Like that just happens now, right? And that sort of like level of, you know, ease and comfort and scalability or whatever happens through team members you hire, partners you bring on in your 3PLs, and tools like Fulfil. So I'm having a great time over here too. I'm feeling like Jason that I'm just going to sleep like a baby on Black Friday this year because everyone else is doing the work. But Mike, speaking of the future, I want to hear for the back half of this episode about your strategic planning for Q4 2023 and 2024. How do you set goals? What are those goals? Just run us through the past week.
Yeah, so this is a good one to bring up. I know a lot of different frameworks. People use different frameworks. And the way that we do it at Simple Modern, we use OKRs, objectives, key results. This is something that Google kind of popularized. And you can do that different ways, but I'll give the basic overview of how we do it. So we start with, we're going to be on an annual cycle. So we're going to, I think Google was like on a quarterly cycle or something, but we've just found annual cycles work better for us. And we'll start with, okay, high level, what are 4 or 5 things that if these things happened, and these are usually like more qualitative in nature. But if these things happened over the next 12 months, then we've really moved the business forward. And those are your objectives. So, like, one example for us is that we want to continue to move upstream in our positioning as a brand. So, because your objectives are fairly qualitative, that's where the key results come in. The key results kind of nest under your objectives, and those are the very measurable, quantifiable, provable things that if these things happened, we feel really confident that we achieved the objective. So you'll set an objective, which is more qualitative and is kind of like the big picture idea that you're trying to accomplish. And then you have a bunch of key results, which are things that you can actually say, yes, that happened, or no, that didn't. It's not like, customers like this more. Terrible key result, because, it's like it's super subjective and you can't prove it. So for example, this year, one of the things we had was accelerate brand recognition through marketing and product development or something like that. But our key results, one was, grow Google searches 180% or more year over year from this number to this number or greater. Grow Amazon searches this percentage year over year from this number to this number or greater. Invest $3 million in this particular marketing endeavor. Run semi-annual brand awareness, aided and unaided surveys. Anyway, so you create a lot of very specific things. So what we'll do is we get all of our executive senior leadership together. We talk about what we think the key big ideas in the business, the big ways we can move the business forward are. We spend some time generating some kind of hypothetical key results. I kind of go up on the mountaintop and look at it for a while. I gather a lot of feedback, and then I come back and say, okay, having everybody's feedback, here's what I think it is, and kind of socialize it with a bunch of different people. And then I present it to our company at the beginning of that year. So I'll either present it like the last week of December or the first week of January. We'll have an all hands meeting, and I will walk through, okay, here's the key results and the objectives for the year. And most importantly, here's the way the world will look if we succeed in this. And here's why you want to be a part of the future. And I think as a leader, this is a really important part, that part of what you're doing is you're casting vision for, like, hey, if we accomplish these goals, this is why you should care, because this is how your life's going to be better. My life's going to be better. So you're casting a vision of, hey, we accomplish all these things, the world's going to look like this, and it's going to be a better future for all of us. And then mid-year, so everybody takes those and kind of builds their own departments all the way down to individuals. They build their own OKRs that kind of flow out of that. Then midway through the year, I usually do a mid-year update where I get up in front of the company and I say, okay, here's how we're doing on everything. And maybe here were some goals that we set that weren't realistic or that could have been better or whatever. One of the things that we're going to get a lot better at this year is the idea of having scoreboards and that's, pretty much monitors that are up all over the office and at our manufacturing facility that have these key results and have real-time numbers. We didn't really have the kind of data infrastructure to do this in the past, but now we can set a goal of, hey, we want to move gross margin, or we want to move our cost to engrave and ship a personalized unit. We want to move that from $9 to $6.50. And, by Q3, and every day when the people who are engraving bottles come in, they see that up on the scoreboard and they're able to see, like, okay, here's the trend line. Here's how close we are to the goal, whatever. And so I'm excited about that piece. I think we're going to be able to make the OKRs even more effective. So anyway, that's how we do it. Would love to hear how each of you guys, I know all of you help set goals for your organization. Would love to hear how you approach it.
Guys, everyone on the podcast uses Northbeam, okay? Like, I use Fulfil, I'm trying to invest in SendLane, and I use Northbeam. I'm the trifecta here. Why do we use Northbeam? Well, we're going to Q4, and if you spend a lot of money on paid media, right? So I'm talking probably multiple millions on Facebook in a month in November, you need a source of truth reporting hourly to accurately pivot budgets and campaign spend. And that one feature alone, my whole paid media team logs into it, my whole creative team logs into it, and they can see which ads are driving sales, creative, whatever, on an independent basis with real-time data, and then pivot budgets accordingly. And in a month like November, you can end up saving 80 grand in an hour or something crazy.
All right. So I'm a very results driven manager. And so we start with the financial results that we want to achieve. And then we think about what are the levers that are going to get us there. And up until this year, we've had a very lean team and a lot of agencies. So there wasn't so much of trying to really define people's objectives so much. However, 2024 will require more work and diligence from us as a management team to do that, to get to really lay out for people what defines success for them. But I think people, if you go too far into the soft stuff and you don't think about the really tangible pieces, like I'm going to set a revenue growth target for 2024. I'm going to make it reasonable. For 2023, it was 70%, and we're beating it by a lot. And next year, we haven't determined the number yet, but we will. And it'll be based on the fact that we can't keep growing at these numbers. It's just impossible. But you got to start from there and then figure out what are the things that you're going to do that are going to actually help you hit those numbers. And so I wouldn't I wouldn't want to encourage people to overthink this, but it's like pick pieces of what Mike says and what other people say and use that, but define it first with financial metric goals because that's what pays the bills.
All right, let's go to Sharoon. I think Sharoon has a follow-up real quick.
Yeah, Mike, why annual OKRs? We use OKRs, and I think the most common thing, including at Google, was to have OKRs at a quarterly basis, so they could revise plans, change things, maybe even react to things like AI with a quarterly OKR. So, has Simple Modern always been on annual plans, or is that a recent thing? Did you do it differently
Yeah,
before? I'm curious to
we
learn.
started with quarterly, and there were a couple reasons why we moved to annual. One of them is the life cycle of product development. A lot of our OKRs usually have some kind of product component to it, and you just can't move the ball that quickly when you're dealing in the physical world. I mean, molds sometimes will take you 90 days or 110 days. And so, like, one of our objectives last year was all around product pipeline. Well, if it's quarterly, it's just not going to change much at all, quarter to quarter, because these things take a while to materialize. I think the other thing, and this is potentially even just a failure on my part, but like we just when we made them quarterly, I think it became kind of schizophrenic, and our focus could just move around a little bit too rapidly. And I found that setting goals where we could say, okay, we're going to have a longer time that we focus on and we're not bouncing around. It worked to kind of mitigate some of my tendency as a leader to kind of shiny object syndrome, to just kind of say, like, okay, I know these things are the most important things and we're going to stay on these things, even like you said, so that I'm not like, March 1st, like, oh, AI, okay, guys, AI needs to be it needs to be an objective all of a sudden. So that it's what's worked for us. But like the other thing that I found here is that really, no matter what you use, it's only as good as your leaders implement it. And another piece with our company is that I don't feel like I have to micromanage my leaders. Like, my leaders are very competent, so as long as I give them good general guidance, they're going to be able to take that and run with it and do good work. And so a lot of the OKR process is me just making sure that we're all seeing together what the most important things are. And I don't get too like I don't even know on a like individual level how much time they spend trying to hit the key results, and how much it is just that because we know what the most important things are, we almost always hit, kind of tick off all our key results. But so and like methods and how often you refresh and stuff like that, I think I'm pretty open-handed with. I might come back next year and say, hey, it makes sense to go quarterly. But I do think there's also been a piece of like the bigger we get, the less sense it makes to be switching them up really often, because it just doesn't, and another good example, I use products, is like when you're working with mass retailers, like we have one objective that's around expanding our footprint distribution wise. And it involves Amazon's international operations and a couple of major retailers. But like those sales cycles are like 6 or 9 month sales cycles, and so it doesn't make sense to be on a shorter time frame.
That makes sense.
Sharoon, you do quarterly, so run us through. How are you doing it?
So very similar to what Mike mentioned, we have a staff offsite where the leadership team comes together. We think about, review the last quarter, figure out what we need to focus on, and come up with the 3 key objectives. We don't worry as much about the key results at that point. Those key results and how to measure them, you have to come up with 3 for each of those, and that's something that the teams can do later. And similar to what Mike mentioned, each team then picks up those high level objectives and translates it into their teams and what those look like for each of those teams. I would say one of the hardest things that we have seen is taking some of these objectives, like Mike was talking about how much money to spend on Google. So how does that translate into another team, like hiring, for example? It may not align perfectly for them. So that's something that I've usually found very challenging with something like OKRs, and how to make those key objectives apply across the company and make everyone feel like they are working towards one of those objectives.
I'll tell you guys how I do it. I come up with 12 things I want the entire company to accomplish. They're called the 12 key objectives, and they're just a random 12 things that I think are important for the business over the next 12 months. And the goal is to accomplish as many of them by the end of the year as possible. This year, LTV was one of them. We have to increase LTV. This year, travel was one of them. We're launching a travel line. 12 random things that I put together, and then the team, like the whole company, hears about those at least once a quarter. They're like, these are things everyone needs to be working on. But then my direct reports, I come up with just a random list of shit I think that they should get done. I sit down with them, I assign a dollar value to each of them, and I say, this is your next year, get this shit done. So it's definitely not as formalized as the OKR system you guys have. A lot of it is just things that I think should happen. And I think Jason's kind of on my same tip.
Yeah, Sean, we are very similar, and I think part of it is just not having the time and the team to like put all this effort into these standardized templates of how to do things. It's like I don't have time to do anything. I don't have time to answer my email. In fact, someone put that in the chat. Remember that one guy who had like some auto response to his email saying like basically I'm too busy and I'm probably not going to read your email, and we were all goofing on that. I feel like maybe it's worth it at some point as an organization to invest in the resources to be able to accomplish the review process and the OKR setting all that, etc. But I mean, I think it's a fine line between how much you want to invest in the meta stuff versus the actual data, right? Like metadata versus data. I think all that stuff is like metadata, and actually doing shit is the data. So I feel like there's a lot of thinking about doing shit and talking about doing shit, and then there's the actual doing shit, which uh, I think it's a fine line. I think we've been very lean on a few things. Like we had no HR, like we had no HR, and now we do, and we needed it, and it's been really helpful. But you can really overdo it. Like I pulled up OKRs during this talk, and the example of a company's OKRs is Allbirds. Okay,
Okay, well,
so
let me push
Allbirds
back.
took the
I
time
want to push back on behalf
to
of,
do
like,
OKRs and shit
here's
to
here's
bet
the
on their
thing.
business.
Well, yeah, just because a crappy business had OKRs doesn't make them bad. I'll make this point, Jason, which maybe this is the bridge. The biggest value in doing OKRs is that I know my senior leadership all understands how we make more money, and that they can draw lines from strategic initiatives to making more money. And that usually we use this process to really align not just the senior leaders, but the entire company. Because I agree, like obviously the goal is you want to make more money with your business, but like just telling somebody, hey, make more money, they have to do things. They have to like put that into action and actually have like, you know, things that they spend their time on to do that. And a lot of people are actually not very good at understanding how to spend their hours making more money. That's what managing is and leading, in my opinion, is that it's when I help them to be able to see when we do this activity, it pulls through into net income and contribution margin. And that's why we're going to do more of it, because we're going to be more profitable. So anyway, I just want to make that point really clear. Obviously, all of us, we're not just navel gazing. We're trying to create, goals to make more money because we run for-profit businesses. But that hopefully what you're doing through the goal setting process is that you're making it crystal clear to your team how to make more money and to get, one step removed, the second order and third order things that actually lead to the bottom line getting thicker.
So, Mike, I agree with you 100%. You're absolutely right. And you do not need to defend the way you run your business because you do a great job. But I guess my point is some people will take this too seriously too early when they should be taking other things in their business more seriously to drive actual results. But I do think you get to a size and scale, and probably Simple Modern is there, and a complexity of an operation and a team. And we're getting there too, where these things are actually important and you got to do it. You just got to make the time. Like I always used to say, our two biggest issues are time and people. We don't have enough people and we don't have enough time. So it's just about getting that. But I guess my takeaway from it is do it when you need to do it. Like last week's Panzerism. Tell me why I need to do this right now. Like at some point, I'm gonna need to do it. I
Well, and
think we're getting there.
you're making a great point, which is like early on, you don't have the complexity to even need to do strategic planning. It's just like, guys, we got to sell more stuff. We got to sell more stuff and we got to keep costs under control. And like, that's it. That's the strategic plan for the year. Sell more things. And then this kind of ties in with what Sharoon was saying. At some point, the complexity gets big enough that you start realizing, oh, if I don't have, inventory controls in place, then I make less money because I'm getting all these chargebacks and because like I'm losing a bunch of stuff and I'm getting shrinkage. Like if some of this other stuff doesn't happen, then we're not going to make more money. Or there's so many things in the business that can create value that people don't know where to spend their time. But I totally agree with you, Jason. Like early on, like let's not overcomplicate it. It's move more product at prices where you make money. That's the goal. Go and conquer.
Well, no, I think this just shows that different types of leaders run their business differently and they can both be successful because the three of you guys all run amazingly different businesses that are all crushing it. And, Jason's like, yeah, look, we don't have the people or time right now. Honestly, I'm just I get bored doing OKRs. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't want to write this shit down. Like, I find it incredibly boring. I find it draining. And part about being a good CEO is doing shit that makes you excited because you set the pace for the entire organization. And I think Mike is, he's definitely the General S. Patton of the group. He's fucking regimented. He's showing up every day. He knows exactly what to get done. And I'm more Benjamin Franklin, man. I'm getting drunk in Paris, like, getting aid where I need it. So well, sick guys. Any final words before we wrap this pod up? I think we covered a lot of ground. I think we hit our hour. So we'll go to Sharoon first. Sharoon, going into Q4, this is one of the last podcasts. What one piece of advice can save everyone in e-commerce? Please share.
Yeah, I would say be ready to react. This year, from everything that we are seeing so far, is going to be weird. You will have to react from marketing to sales and everything. You'll have to really react to how things are changing. So for the ops teams, I would say keep a close hotline to your marketing teams. If they're starting to sell bundles, be prepared for it. If they're starting to sell a lot more single item units, be ready to ship those. So that's the one thing that I'd leave teams with.
Oh yeah, dude, from the operator himself. All right, Jason, one piece of advice going into Q4.
Don't be afraid to step on the gas.
Hell yeah, dude. Hit that gas going into the turn. All right, Mike, one piece of advice. What do you got?
Jeez. I'm just going to go back to the Panzerism. I know it's not about ecom, but I just thought it was great. Be authentic. Be authentic with your team. Be authentic with your customers. Be authentic with people. Like you win when people like you, when people trust you. Be authentic.
Okay, here's the bonus from me. Here's the real nugget. Ask for ad credit. I am hearing that all tertiary ad networks are down to do deals. If you commit to spend, they will give you ad credit. We're talking the Snapchats of the world, the Pinterests of the world, the Twitters of the world. I think I'll get back almost $1 million in free ad spend because I'm asking for ad credit. My budget's bigger than a lot of other people's, but go out there, ask for that ad credit. That is the final words of the episode. Be authentic. Be ready to hit the gas. Tell your team what's going on. Be ready to react and ask for that damn ad credit. All right, guys, episode 29. It's over. Bye.